The IRS has changed their limits for FSA and HSA plans. Many employers across the United States have open enrollment during the fall. It is important to know what your new limitations will be for your FSA and/or your HSA. During open enrollment, employees have the ability to choose new health plans, make changes to their existing plan, and oftentimes are offered a FSA or HSA from their employer. Not tax advice, I'm not a tax professional. Speak to your personal tax professional before making any financial decisions, and I think that's it. This year, there are some changes that may benefit you financially, and there are also some pitfalls that you should be aware of before making your decision. The two tax advantage accounts we're going to talk about today is FSA and HSA. FSA stands for Flexible Spending Account. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. People will be very interested to know that there can be tax savings and overall savings. Employees and employers both really enjoy FSAs and HSAs because of the tax savings that comes along with them. It allows employees to set money aside pre-tax and use those funds for medical expenses. And the IRS has just updated the amounts for 2023. In 2022, the maximum amount that an individual could contribute to an FSA was $2,850. And in 2023, that amount has gone up to $3,050 for an individual. Now, HSAs have also increased. It's going up to $3,850 for an individual and $7,750 for a family. This is an increase of 7% on the FSA and an increase of 5.5% for an individual on an HSA and an increase of 6.2% for a family. These increases are very helpful to employees at this time, especially with managing inflation. Employers and employees alike are looking for ways to save money on and help with their budget and expenses. It's not always just sunshine and rainbows. There's a downside to everything. The FSA, the downside, the catch, the gotcha, if you will, is called the use it or lose it rule. Let's give an example here. Let's assume that you set aside the full $3,050 in an FSA, and if you do not use the entire $3,050 by the end of the plan year, you could lose it. So it's called the use it or lose it rule with the FSA. One of the upsides is that that money is available right away. So if you know that your kid needs braces or that you have a surgery coming up, you're going to use the full $3,050, you might as well elect the full amount. And what I mean by that, for example, January 1st, you sign up for your FSA. You have $3,050. Now you take that and you divide it by the number of paychecks you have. So let's say you set aside the entire amount, which is $3,050, and you get paid bi-weekly. So that's $117.31 per pay period. So the plan starts January 1st. Let's say your surgery is January 15th. Even though you've only put in $117.31, you still have the full amount available to you, the full $3,050. Okay, and then you pay it back to your employer over the remainder of the year. With the HSA, that amount is not fully available to you at the first of the year. It accumulates as you hold on to the plan. Okay, so two big differences there with the FSA and the HSA. Now, with the use it or lose it rule, let's say you elect the full $3,050 and you only use $2,000 of it. At the end of the year, you forfeit the $1,050, and that goes back to your employer. And when this happens, many employees get very resentful and call it a scam or get upset at their employer. One thing you have to understand is it's a balance. It's not just the employer's not always just winning in this situation. For those of you that are employers or HR people that are listening to this, you should also know the downside for the employer. The downside for the employer in offering an FSA is that the money is available to the employee right away. So if you have an employee, again, the same situation, let's say they elect the full $3,050, effective January 1st. They have a surgery January 15th. They use the full amount, $3,050. They've only paid you back a few times on their paycheck, and then they leave your organization in February. You're out that, almost $3,000. Okay, you're out that money that they haven't paid back over their paycheck. You can't withdraw it from their last paycheck. You can't take it back in any way. So the idea with this plan is that it's a give and take. Sometimes the employer is going to win and sometimes the employer is going to lose. And some of the employees are going to forfeit some money at the end of the year, and some employees are going to leave and run off with some money at the beginning of the year. Also, FSAs can be eligible for COBRA, and that's something that employers also have to keep in mind if that is extended through COBRA, and that is something that can get a little bit more technical on how to deal with that. This brings us to the next topic, which is what is the difference between FSA and HSA? They use the same list from the IRS. The IRS has a list of qualified medical expenses, and those are the items that you can use the money for. That makes these two plans very similar. What makes these two plans very different is that the FSA is an account owned by the employer. And as long as you're with that employer, you have access to that plan. The HSA, on the other hand, is owned by the employee. It's just like a bank account. When you set up an HSA, it's very similar to just setting up any other bank account. Your employer doesn't have any access to it. They can deposit money into it, but they have no idea what your balance is, what you're spending the money on, or anything like that. With the FSA, the employer does know what the balance is. But in short, the big difference is that with the HSA, even if you leave that employer, it's going to follow you. It's your individual account. It can't be taken away. Where with the FSA, you may be able to continue it through COBRA, but that's only for a limited amount of time. And many employers and employees want to know, can you have an HSA and an FSA at the same time? You really shouldn't. It usually doesn't make too much sense to have an HSA and an FSA at the same time. However, it can be done. You can have an HSA and an FSA. However, the FSA has to be a limited FSA and only cover dental and vision expenses. Another question that we get asked quite a bit is how much does one put into an FSA or an HSA? Now, with an HSA, I encourage people to put as much in there as makes sense. If you can set aside as much to cover at least your deductible, that would be a good idea. So for example, if you have a $2,500 deductible, it would be a good idea to set aside $200 a month to at least cover that deductible by the end of the year. And if you don't use it, hey, it rolls over year. You can start accumulating more and more money in that account. With the FSA, we take the opposite approach. You want to be conservative with the FSA because you don't want to lose the money at the end of the year. You want to set aside money that you know for sure you're going to spend. For example, if you have a prescription drug that costs you take every month, it's a maintenance medication, and it costs you $50 a month, I would say set aside $600. Focus on setting aside that initial $600 for your first year in your FSA. And then as you get used to it, the following year, you'll be able to make a better decision as to what you can spend the money on. Because there are quite a few items that you would be surprised that you can spend money on with the FSA and the HSA, and I'll show you that in just a moment. People are surprised that the list of approved medical expenses by the IRS is fairly extensive. And one website that I am very fond of is FSAstore.com. I'm not endorsed, I'm not sponsored, this is not an ad, this is just a cool website that I found that I've used before. And I think it is useful information for you if you have a FSA, FSAstore.com and HSAstore.com. So all the items on here are FSA and HSA friendly. You can see on here there's Tylenol, there's feminine hygiene products, there's sunscreen, there's pain relief, baby and mom. hearing assistance, an impressions kit, first aid, cold and allergy, high-tech health, menstrual care, vitamins and supplements, ear and eye care, sun care, digestive health. So you can go through here and really explore what could be covered on your FSA or HSA. Hopefully you found that information useful. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I have a link down below on some more contact information. Thank you for hanging out until the end. Please leave a comment, like the video, and we'll see you next time.